Onegaishimasu. Today the key saying will be 16, Kiyatsu. I have learned the principle of mind and body, unification. I understand ki breathing, and I understand that universal ki moves through my body at any time and in any circumstance. Let's give a fresh start towards happiness to people who suffer from illness and misfortune by ki of the universe moving through our body. This is like priming a water pump when it is dried out, to pull new water up through the pump. Well, good evening, good morning. I hope everyone is doing well. So nice to see you. We had a class yesterday morning that was a class from headquarters from Japan, taught by Hideo Ohara sensei. And I know some of you attended that class. Not many people from Hawaii attended because it was very early for us. But I thought I'd talk a little bit about some of the things Ohara sensei taught in relation to sitting practice. And just to clarify, he did not teach Kiyatsu in this class. He taught ki exercises, some ki development exercises, and he taught a few Aikido arts. It was a wonderful class. So many people attended. Very nice to see all of that. Many people in their dojos practicing. But the reason I chose this ki saying is because of the theme of the class. And the theme was, don't think, feel. And of course, this applies very much to Kiyatsu, and it applies to what we're doing here today, this morning, this evening as well. So that's the direction I want to go in. Basically, when we say something like this, Curtis Sensei, when he talks about giving ki test, he says, look, it's like 3 steps. Look, feel, confirm. And so this idea of feeling, looking, listening, all of this is another way of saying extend ki. Instead of being here, be in the world, be with your partner, give them all of your attention. Right? And so this is what Ohara sensei was also talking about in his class. And even here on Oahu, my teacher, who passed away earlier this year, Nalawai sensei, he had this expression he also used about this. He had his own way of expressing it. And he would tell us this was what the native Hawaiians used to say. They would say to him, and then he would say to us, get out of your head, go to where it's empty. And this is such a wonderful way of putting it, right? Because we're talking about, it's not that thought is, there's something wrong with it. It has its place and its time. But when we're interacting in the world, when we're going through all of the daily things that we go through, our practice is constantly reinforcing to pay attention to connect with everything around us, rather than to make everything around us about us, our own needs, trying to fulfill, and so forth. So this is how I want to approach the class this morning. I have this picture. I didn't put it on the computer, so I can't show you. Maybe I can show you next time. But I was driving home one evening from work, and it was a unusual evening. The weather was very unusual here. Some rain, but not much. It was one of those evenings where it was threatening to rain, but very little rain was falling. And so the clouds were kind of blocking the sun, but some rays of sun were coming through. And they were far off. There were these dark clouds that were far off and above. And as I was driving, there was this one cloud sitting, just hovering above the buildings ahead of me. So my phone was next to me in the car, and so I pulled it out and took a picture when we were at a stoplight. And so what was interesting about it, what made me want to do this, was that it wasn't so much, it wasn't the cloud itself that was so interesting, right? It was the space around the cloud that made it that way, you see? So, a cloud, if it had been surrounded by other clouds, the same cloud would have not looked particularly different. I probably would not have taken a picture. But on this occasion, it just was striking. And so, my point here is that the space around us is very important. So around our thoughts. And we don't always realize, we don't always notice this space. Sometimes we get caught up in the cloud, in the details of the cloud, of the thoughts. And yet, when we're sitting, we can make contact with this, even if it's just for a brief moment. We can, the thoughts maybe slow down, and we become aware of this broader, this vast space. And that is like consciousness, right? It's like the sky. And the thought is like a cloud. And so this idea of don't think, feel, is reminding us to be in that space, in that vastness, rather than with the individual thought or cloud or detail. When we do Kyatsu, this is very important, rather than kind of narrowing our view to a single point. I know this was taught. We want to keep our perspective wide and open. And then we can embrace, connect. All right? So this is the how, in my view, the theme from the Saturday class from Japan connects with what we're doing here. I'd like to get started with some sitting. You might have some comments about this, your own experience that you'd like to share. One other thing just to keep in mind about all of this, and I think it's very important. when we, every day, when we're sitting, doing Kyatsu, doing Aikido, going to work, we bring, you know, our experience of knowledge with us. And yet it's very useful, very, very helpful to just put that aside sometimes and realize that we don't know. Very helpful when we're doing our sitting practice. To approach it fresh, without that prior knowledge. And when we're interacting on the mat in Aikido, to approach every partner in that way, fresh. And so feeling in that moment, experiencing the uniqueness of that moment, rather than doing things from, as Nalawai Sensei says, from here. Right? All right, so let's do some, we'll start with some key breathing, and we'll do some key meditation and some mind-body meditation as well. Sitting up. All right. So I talked a little bit about the theme from the class from Japan and how it relates to what we're doing here, a little bit how it relates to our daily life. Maybe you have a comment or question you'd like to share with the group. This is the time.
Sensei, you talked about the photo you made from
Oh,
the
yes.
sky. Yes, the sky. And I was, I tried to feel this picture, this image you gave us. And I was thinking about if it is important to find the light in the cloud. This is my question. How can we do this?
Can you explain a little bit more what you mean by find the light?
In the cloud, yes, to perceive it as light. So we often have hindrances or opportunity to wake up, I would say. And sometimes it is not so easy to find the light in the cloud. So it's easy in the sky to see the light, yes. But on a deeper level, I think. Or maybe we find one point in the cloud. I don't know.
Well, so I'm not sure if you're speaking metaphorically here. It sounds like you might be.
Both metaphorically
Both, yeah.
and concrete, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so when we're talking about, this is just sharing my own experience here. But we talk about darkness in the class, especially Curtis Sensei he likes to refer to it as not something to get rid of, right? We just turn the attention, the turn our awareness on, right? And that brings the light. So when it comes to the metaphor, something like that, a dark time, a dark moment, a dark experience that we go through. You mentioned one point, and I talked a while back about feelings and emotions in a different class. And it's really, I think, really important for us in our practice as we're sitting we start to become aware of how we as individuals get drawn in to something, right? And get caught up in the wave of emotion or in the darkness of a moment. And as we become familiar with how we get caught up in those things, just becoming familiar is opening us up, right? And so that is like already providing this light that you speak of. So, I think that's the practice. On another occasion, I was driving and the traffic wasn't cooperating. Everything was, seemed to be going, in this kind of, and it was a busy day for me. And so at some point, I just stopped, right? Not physically stopped, but just stopped my mind, just stopped. And instead of going against this dark kind of emotional experience that I was having on this very busy day that was coming up for me, I just welcomed it. I just went towards it, right? And so then it all, for that moment, it all suddenly was like light, right? Instead of this kind of swirling whirlpool of darkness, it suddenly was, this other thing. And so it had just been my perception of it, right? And me getting caught up. And of course, this is what I mean by, as we become familiar, we can all, right? We can all do this. We can all have these moments. And the more moments we have like this, the more it just becomes the way. Right? And well, I think I'll, as far as seeing the light in the cloud, I think I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mentioned before about just our resistance to certain things is what sometimes gets us in trouble. So it's not easy for us to drop those resistances. We have to first be aware of them. That's that light. So the darkness is just our own not being able to see something that's maybe right in front of us. So, but wonderful question. Thank you very much, Crystal. And I very much like the way you said that you tried to feel the image. That was very beautiful, the way you put that. Thank you. Anyone else? I'll share with you while you're thinking of your question. So at the beginning of the class, on the Japan class on Saturday, this is what made me think of Kyatsu, by the way. So the theme, of course, did. But before the class started, Sachiko Toi was there. You know, she's the spouse of the chief instructor of the Key Society in the entire world. The group, you know, it was a small group, and so there was some talking on Zoom. This was maybe 20, 25 minutes before the class started. But as more and more people started arriving into the session, she started just welcoming people. Oh, hello, Curtis Sensei, so nice to see you. Hello, Shainer Sensei, very nice to see you. Hello, Crystal Sensei, very nice to see you. You know, it was like she was performing. Of course, this is welcoming, right? But she was performing Kyatsu to the group, right? Just like this, to everyone as people arrived. And it just, such a wonderful way and of course she wasn't teaching the class, but she is this very important figure, this representative. And so she took it upon herself to do this and just making everybody feel so welcomed and so wanted there. So. Anything else?
Oh, Sensei.
Yes, Fincher Sterling. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Hello, everybody else. You know, this, of course, the light in the cloud is such a luring image. But just in a last comment here is, if you look at if you think of a dark cloud in your mind, and you look at one, it seems to be a completely different experience. And I know Gloria Falstrom, in her image behind her, has what would be considered a dark cloud. However, if you look at it, you can obviously see all the light within that cloud. And if you were an artist, I'm thinking of Joel, painting the cloud, certainly you have to be aware of that light as well. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Very nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an artist in that way, like Joel, and you're talking about the painting behind Gloria. I cannot see it right now.
It's not a painting. It's a picture that a friend of mine took, and it's of the Milky Way. And so the lights that you see are the stars in the clouds that are part of and part of the Milky Way. So there were clouds. The moon kind of is up there, and stars. And so it depends on how you look at it, doesn't it? It's really interesting that it appears to be a cloud, and it's actually some clouds in the Milky Way.
Well, thank you. And then there's some light there too as well. It's full of light. Yes. Again, yeah, artists have to, one of the skills from what I understand is they have to really understand how to create light in the image, right? This is a very challenging thing. From what I understand, again, I'm not at all versed in this, in painting and those kind of things. Well, I see we've reached our time. So I want to thank you all for spending this time together, supporting each other, supporting me. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day, a wonderful week ahead. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. Aloha.